I recently had baby number 5, and I love making things with sourdough, but right now in this season of life, I need recipes that are really easy to make and are really quick to put together. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a really easy sourdough tortillas using a tortilla press, which is a huge time saver. First, ideally you want to use active starter. I have used discard for this recipe in the past, but the texture comes out a little bit different. They still come out delicious, but I found that they're a little bit more dense if you use a discard. So either one works, but you're gonna have best results if you use an active starter, or at least more active than the runny discard. So once you have your sourdough starter, you're going to boil some water. Once your water is boiling, combine it with some cooler water or let it cool down naturally. You want your water to be about 100 degrees. Not too much higher, but and not too much lower, because you want that warm water to react with your flour to create the really nice chewy texture that we like in tortillas. And then a large mixing bowl, combine the warm water with your salt, your starter, preferably active, and your all-purpose flour. You're going to leave your butter addition until later, so make sure it's out and softening. And you'll be using 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. So set that aside so it gets nice and warm and soft. So now that you have your warm water, salt, starter, and all-purpose flour in your mixing bowl, you're going to mix these together. And continue kneading the dough until it's soft, it's pulling away from the sides of the bowl. This will take a little time to get all those mixed together. So make sure you give this a really good mix so your dough is becoming more soft and all the ingredients are fully incorporated. Once they are fully incorporated and your dough is soft, it is time to slowly add the butter. So I like to mix in 1 tablespoon at a time and continue mixing in that butter until you no longer see it on the surface. If you're using a KitchenAid or stand mixer, you may want to get this out and mix it by hand to make sure all that butter is totally incorporated on the dough and isn't sitting on the surface of the dough or on the bottom of your mixing bowl. Then cover your dough, let it sit at room temperature. So let it sit for at the very least 2 hours and up to 6 or 7 hours in colder temperatures. If it is warm temperatures or summertime where you are, I wouldn't let this go longer than 5 hours at room temperature because it'll start to fall apart and lose its consistency. And you can also put this in the fridge overnight if you want to prepare it ahead of time. So once your dough has had a chance to ferment at room temperature, then it is time to divide it into balls of dough. So I like to use a scale for this part because I want to make sure these are really accurate for squishing in the tortilla press, because there's only so much dough that can fit in there before squishing out the sides. So for the tortilla press that I am using, it's a cast iron version. It comes from, I believe the company is Victoria. That is linked down in the description box below if you want to check that out. And this recipe will give you balls that are just right to almost fill the plate without becoming too big and overexpanding outside the plate. So you're going to divide your dough until each ball of dough weighs about 37 to 38 grams. And if you don't have a kitchen scale, I highly recommend, makes your baking, especially sourdough baking, so much simpler. But if you don't, you can do this visually. See the full recipe post below where I describe how you would do that visually. And then once you have your balls of dough, you're going to want to tighten them onto itself. So fold the dough over itself, pinching on the bottom until you create a nice, smooth, round ball. Put them to the side in a nice even rows with that seam side down and the smooth side you've created up. Hey, I want to interrupt the video really quick because I shot this a few weeks ago, but actually I found something that's even easier than pre-shaping all the balls of dough, and I thought you might want to know. So my son, I asked him to divide and pre-shape the dough. He didn't make the tight balls of dough, actually just cut it and barely shaped it. I'll just put the different portions of the dough all in rows. And it's still pressed just perfect. Really, there was not much difference at all. So if you want to skip the extra work, just divide the dough, make sure they're even size and weight or volume if you're using just by gauging by volume, and it'll work out really well. So just thought you'd want to know that. So enjoy the rest of the recipe. And then cover these with plastic wrap and a kitchen towel to sit at room temperature to continue to rest before you shape them. This resting period, I recommend letting it go for 30 minutes to an hour, maybe an hour and a half, because I find that it goes pretty quickly. If it's really cold in your kitchen, you could let it go for a full 2 hours. And again, all this timing and these details are described in the full recipe post linked below. And then it's time to preheat your cast iron skillet or your other skillet. And I'm using a propane stove, so I'm heating this at a lower temperature. Natural gas tends to cook faster than electric. So heat up your skillet on medium-low to medium. Now that your skillet is hot, it's time to get your tortilla press ready. So get your tortilla press out on the counter, and you're gonna cut 2 to 3 sheets of parchment that are small squares, about 5 inches by 5 inches. Set those aside, and then take a large gallon Ziploc bag, cut off the very edges of it from the top of the bag to the bottom, leaving that bottom seam intact. Then you're going to lay your Ziploc bag open over the plates of your tortilla press. Then take out a ball of tortilla dough, put it on the center of your plate. For my plate, I like to put it closer to the hinge to get a better press. And then once you've done that, place your parchment sheet centered over the ball of dough. Carefully lay the other layer of plastic over that parchment paper. Then take the plate and close it over the top, and then press it using your handle. Once you open up your tortilla press, you should see the flattened tortilla sandwiched underneath the layer of plastic and the parchment paper. Lift off that first layer of plastic, and then use both hands to carefully peel off the pressed tortilla dough from the bottom layer of plastic. You want to make sure it stays on the parchment. This is really important, because if you don't let it stay on that parchment, it will shrink right back up into a very thick shape. It'll be more like a naan bread than a tortilla. Then put the flattened tortilla on the parchment on your hand with the parchment side down, and quickly flip the tortilla into your pan so that now the flattened tortilla is baking on the hot surface of your skillet and the parchment is up. And then quick note is make sure you recover your balls of tortilla dough while they're resting so they don't dry out. Let this tortilla cook for a few seconds. It usually takes 5 to 10 seconds until that parchment will peel right off because it's baked enough. So don't rush it, but watch it and peel off that parchment. Once that parchment is peeled off, it's time to do its first flip. Once you peel off the parchment, flip your tortilla over. You should see the first side is cooked through. Let the bottom side cook for another 5 to 10 seconds. And then at this point, I like to do one more flip to see if I get some air to build up inside it and really get a softer texture inside my tortilla. So flip it over that final time, press on the edges to create some air, but don't let it cook too long because then it will start to become brittle and could burn. When your tortilla is fully cooked, put it to the side on a serving plate. And then continue cooking all your balls of tortilla. This process, thankfully, is so much faster with the tortilla press. And it's also a great way to help get your kids involved in the kitchen. My kiddos can help out with this task. It's really easy for them. Just make sure you're on standby to watch, make sure no one gets burned by the hot skillet. And then all the tortillas just stack nice on top of each other for dinner, and they create their own steam at this point, so they don't need to be stored in a special way right after baking. But if you want to store them for the week, which I love to do because I use them for leftovers, I also use them for making easy lunches like a sandwich wrap. So let them cool for several hours. They need to be completely cooled throughout the stack of tortillas. So make sure you test the center of the stack to make sure there's no warmth in there. And then I take a large gallon Ziploc bag, a new one, not the cut one, and I take 2 paper towels. One paper towel goes on the top of the stack of tortillas and one goes on the bottom. I place the tortillas inside that large Ziploc bag. What those paper towels do is they absorb excess moisture, so my tortillas stay in good condition, don't get mushy or soggy from the moisture that will eventually come out as they sit in the refrigerator. And if you are part of a big family or you love prepping some sourdough breads and items ahead of time, this one is a great one for you because this recipe makes a really big batch of tortillas. My goal whenever I make this is to make 32 tortillas. So that is what the recipe yields, is 32 taco-sized tortillas. So I really hope this helps out your family. I would love to hear that you enjoyed it or that your family loved it or anything else you'd love to tell me that you serve these with down in the comments below. And please share this with another family, another sourdough baker, another mom who's trying to incorporate sourdough but finding it difficult, because I love this recipe for making things simpler in the kitchen. Have a great day, and I will see you soon.